You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is Oddbook Done.
This is Merps. Hope you guys are having a good week. A
Cause
little bit of warning.
Blizzard ain't.
Yeah. This week we are
uh,
talking about something really big. This is probably, if you're connected to the Blizzard universe at all, whatever game you play, you have probably heard of it. We want to talk about extensively today just because it is huge news. And also, there's not much updates on the arena and BG front. We will get to that and we'll tell you sort of our plans for that in a little bit.
yeah, like if
But
you're here for BG tips or arena tips, not much is going on, and that will not be what this podcast is about.
yes, so strap yourselves in. And also, as a warning, we are going to be talking about some topics which may be uncomfortable for some people, but just letting you know that. Let's get into it. This week, a bombshell dropped in the form of a lawsuit and a form of a complaint uh, filed by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing against Activision Blizzard.
That's the state of California.
That's the state of
A
California. So,
department in the state of California that ensures like you're not discriminating against people in employment and fair practices and all of that. And this comes after a 2-year investigation into Activision Blizzard.
a 2-year investigation that created a 29-page complaint that was filed in court. I read all 29 pages. You don't have to.
I did not
You
read
can.
any pages.
There are many news outlets and sites that summarize it for you guys. I just felt like if I'm summarizing it for you guys, I don't want it to be a summary of a summary. So I'm going to get it from the source. I want to summarize it for you
Mm-hmm.
guys, set the stage, and then we can talk about it and what it means. The bottom line is, and really what the complaint alleges, is that Activision Blizzard, for many years, has had systemic and rampant, quote, what they call frat boy culture at Blizzard that led to, in exact quotes, a breeding ground for harassment and discrimination against women. The complaint starts off by just laying out kind of what they saw at Blizzard and very simple, kind of foundational facts. The workforce is only 20% women. Few women ever reach the top roles at the company, and never the CEO or the president positions, which has never had women in there. Women who do reach higher roles earn less salary, get less incentive pay, and total compensation than their male peers. Peers, as in people on the equal tier of the ladder. The women who are just starting earn lower starting pay than male counterparts, are promoted significantly slower, and are terminated significantly quicker than their male counterparts. So they compared these with like whatever position you want, right? Like it was an apples to apples comparison. The differences being male versus female. So, and then they noted that numerous complaints were made to HR and executives, including the president of Blizzard, J. Allen Brack. And this is where they start laying out a lot of the most egregious examples.
Yeah,
Number
so
one,
if up to this point you're listening and you're like, wait, wouldn't this describe every single large video game company? And you'd be right, but that's more of a statement on the state of the industry than on what good practices are. And the harder stuff will hit later, and Merps will get to it. But this is not a like there's more. This investigation is not just Blizzard is terrible and the video game industry is terrible. This is this is
yeah,
a
and
little heightened than that.
I will explain the significance of this being brought by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing a little bit. But at this point of the complaint, it goes into some of the most egregious examples where, number one, women of color were particularly vulnerable targets of discrimination, how they were denied leave, how they weren't promoted, etc., etc. Rampant examples of sexual harassment, where men would get inebriated and do a crawl around the office, making inappropriate comments to women, often joking to them about rape. And this happened numerous times. Alex Afrasiabi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who was the previous senior creative director of WoW.
For many years.
For many,
like
many
decade
years.
Plus.
There were numerous instances of him sexually harassing women, and in fact, his suite at Blizzard was known as the Crosby Suite, named after Bill Crosby. This was something known around Blizzard. His behavior was so bad that there was actually a nickname. Yeah.
Okay, Bill Cosby, not Crosby.
Oh yeah, not Crosby. Bill Cosby. I don't know why I said Crosby.
The guy's famous enough for multiple things now that you should know his name.
I think they actually mistyped it on there, and I just pasted it. But additionally, and this is probably the worst example. One woman within Blizzard committed suicide while on a company trip with her supervisor, and it came out that her supervisor was having basically was also sexually harassing her. And before her death, allegedly male coworkers were passing around nude photos of her as well. So these are some of the most egregious examples that were in the complaint, as well as many, many other examples highlighting just the failings of Blizzard and how bad the culture had gotten.
So the big thing about this is that it's not like the actions of a couple of individual people. They just use it to highlight what is this pervasive culture that the alleged. Okay, so one, the state never loses. So if the state has done a 2-year investigation and brought this suit, the state is going to win. This is all innocent until proven guilty, but we're a 99.99% chance at this point, right? This isn't a person making an allegation and believe women or don't believe women. Even if you don't believe women,
let me just finish this first.
Let me just finish. You're not done setting up the
number one. The complaint ends with, and this is an exact quote as well. Complaints fell on deaf ears or were met with an empty promise to investigate the issue. So for some of those individuals who are out there saying why haven't we heard about this? There were complaints. There was noise from the inside. They were silenced. Number two, this is very important, and they started an entire section with this exact quote once again. The problems of harassment and discrimination extended to and at minimum were known to those at the top. So, this complaint isn't just saying this is a problem and it was all loosey-goosey, no one knew about it. They started off an entire section by saying all of these things that we're talking about extended to, as in were participated in by, and at minimum were known to the people at the very top of Blizzard. And this is after the 2-year investigation. So this is all important because, and I also want to lay out kind of the response from Blizzard, right? The response from Blizzard, 3 big ones came from President J. Allen Brack, Mike Moore.
Let's not lay out the responses yet. Let's just look at the complaint. Right? Let's talk about the responses afterwards. Right now, what you have, like I was saying, is a state of California, I don't know, lawsuit's a weird way to put it. I mean, it is technically a lawsuit. But action by the state of California that is very trustworthy. And whether this ends up being potentially settled out of court or, the verdict comes in that's going to be that Blizzard has to do XYZ and pay XYZ damages. This is all stuff that I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that the complaint is not uh, either frivolous or exaggerating. And more importantly, because of what the complaint is that it goes all the way to the top. And as you hear from this stuff, like pub crawls, the demeaning to women stuff, and even setting aside the one woman who committed suicide, this is a culture that's pervasive in Blizzard, known in Blizzard, and it's not something that's like just around in 2020. Right, 2021. This is something that's been around in Blizzard for a long time, that there are these stories, that there is this culture. The key word here is culture. And culture is enforced from the top and the people that get promoted. And you have what are bad actors and enablers at the very top levels of Blizzard. Not a couple of bad actors and enablers, but given the allegement from this lawsuit by the state of California, definitely most, if not all, of the people in positions of power at Blizzard were in on it. They may not be directly discriminating against women or directly harassing women, but they were like, okay, to my colleagues who are in positions of power, harassing women, doing, all the other stuff that's alleged in the complaint, or they were like, hey, don't tell me anything. I don't want to hear. Either way, these are all not like, oh, I should have done better, but like, I am guilty of a crime type behavior. And in a large corporation, such as Activision Blizzard, like, I could tell you right now, if my employer were doing this, oh my god, like, if any of my previous employers were doing this, huge consequences would follow. It's not unthinkable. This is just kind of the society we live in, unfortunately. But there would be huge consequences, and it would be one of those things where it's like, it's probably not close to this degree, because this is the pervasive amounts that I've gotten close enough to the power sources at my previous organizations to know.
So I want to touch upon that point for a second, where because I think you skimmed through it a little bit quickly, and it might still be confusing to some people.
Yeah. Just interrupt me if you want to add stuff, because
Okay.
this is going to go all over the place, right?
This is going to go all over the place because there's so much to unpack. But for the people, and there are a lot of people, and we've talked about this innocent until proven guilty thing, right? And it's like, oh wait, but this is in court already, so like, we definitely can / should just wait. And that's up to you. First of all, whatever, that's up to you. I'm just gonna give you some numbers and some context on how these agencies bring this. So remember, 2-year investigation by a government agency that has millions of dollars to spend. And you can go on the website, and I'm going to present you with some numbers. In 2019, here's the publicly available information from this agency, the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. They received 28,700 forms, which equaled 24,000 complaints. So people proactively reported stuff from their employers 24,000 times in 2019. That resulted in 6,000 investigations. And from those 6,000 investigations, it resulted in 4 court filings. 4. So, what does that mean? Like, and this is like the stats from 2019. It's the most recent available stats. They don't have 2020 stats right now. So, what does that mean? The California state is not just going around suing everyone.
They are only taking the ones that are like slam dunks.
They are taking the ones that are the most egregious and, unfortunately, more important priority for government agencies, the ones that they are going to win. Because that's what government agencies care a lot about. When you have a lot of this, if you're spending a lot of time, are you going to sue just for that, like, oh man, maybe we can bully this company and then, force them to, I don't know, compensate these people, not us? Like, you'd have to do a lot of mental gymnastics to actually think it's like, people are just out for, like, they're out for Blizzard. in the some weird way. Remember, this isn't like allegations from someone writing a Twitter post talking
Mhm.
about something that happened. And we've even talked
This
about,
is the state of California.
this is the
We
state
are
of
not like,
California.
I think it's even like, yeah, it's about the same stuff, but I think it's a huge disservice to the scope of what is happening here when we compare this to like Me Too movement and, you know, women alleging mistreatment and discrimination at the office when it comes to a legal sense and a certainty sense. Right? Whatever doubts, whether you are, I believe women 100%, to I believe women 95%, to I believe women never, because bitches be lying. This isn't about women in terms of women alleging things. This is about a government that has done 2 years of investigation on this. We are now at 99.99% certainty that everything that they have alleged is true. And not just true, but provable. Which
So
means
if you're
God knows
thinking,
what else has been happening that is just they couldn't find the documents and the evidence for.
so if you're saying innocent until proven guilty, and you're like, oh, you know what, there is a chance that this
No,
is all
no,
false,
this
there
is
is
this is
none.
BS. Like you
There
are
is none.
more likely to be killed by 3 straight legendaries in an arena match than you are that this case ends up finding Blizzard not guilty.
Right. Now, is there a chance that only like 95% of it is true? Okay. Does that change your
Yeah, well,
opinion?
what does that matter?
Does that really
I
does it
think it's
change your opinion?
much more likely that 5,000% more on top of this is true, and they just didn't have sufficient evidence
Yeah.
to prove it, than there is
Yeah.
that this is actually going overboard somehow. Like, government entities don't do that in their complaints. Like, they're trying to get a 100% win here. They get a like 99 point something whatever percent win rate. Like this is not like your normal arena game. This is like like it's almost a rounding error when these governments make these kinds of suits and fail.
So we just needed to address that first of all, because like with a lot of the outcries and the controversies recently, and with the Me Too movement, the whole sort of like so many people fall back on this, and then they use this wide brush in this instance as well, innocent until proven
No, no,
guilty,
no,
and
no.
it's
Like
so
it's because this is linked to the Me Too movement now. When it only should be in substance, not in degree.
Mhm.
It's like saying,
Yeah,
"Hey, I got hit by an asteroid" versus "I got punched in the face." Yes, both is one thing hitting you in the head. That is true. But in one case, it's a lot bigger, like immeasurably bigger than getting punched in
yeah.
the face. You know, getting
Yeah.
punched in
I
the
mean,
face deals like 1 damage in arena. A meteor deals 15. Like we're and hits stuff around it. Like
and hit stuff
there's
around
a
it. That's
lot
true.
happening here, and that's what I think is getting a lot like a lost in a lot of the conversations where people are like, oh yeah, this is bigger. No, this isn't just bigger. This isn't 30%, 50%, 100% bigger. This is insanely bigger. And any shred of doubt that you may have that let's say you just really like Blizzard, you know good people at Blizzard. We all know good people at Blizzard, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, they can't do that. Well, if they're in a position of power, especially if they've been in a position of power, at least like I would say like from like 2 years or farther ago, yeah, they knew about it. Yeah, they're enablers, and yes, they're kind of at least in this part, they're horrible people. Maybe they're good people outside of that, but you got to net it out with this somehow, and this is pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, people are complex entities. So, for example, all right, let's talk about the response from Blizzard now, because I think it ties in
Okay. Okay.
decently
Let's
well.
let's talk about the response from the Blizzard. But
But
the summary is that one, certainty is near 100%, and two, this is institutional widespread. Not necessarily every single person at Blizzard. Definitely not every single person at Blizzard, but
no,
every single person with power. That is the key.
yes,
So if you're looking at your favorite Blizzard developer and they're a developer, maybe they knew about it and they couldn't do anything about it and they just like didn't take the action to quit. They may have even spoken up about it and gotten ignored. Maybe they didn't speak up about it. You don't know. But if they are in the management level, or the executive level, or anything above, they're guilty. There's also, if you look at the Twitter allegations, there's no department that's kind of immune to this. It's so widespread. People started coming out and flooding it with all these stories. And that's more than before, because these stories kind of have always floated around. It's not like this was a huge shock to anybody that this may
Yeah,
be happening.
I'm gonna say right now, like, also, if you, and I understand, because you have to dig on Twitter, you have to dig on TikTok, you have to dig on forums, but if you look around, after this bombshell dropped, so many current and former
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard employees all came out and just piled on, like, here's another piece of the puzzle. Yes, I can corroborate this. Yes, what is said in the complaint about like this sort of practice is absolutely true. This person said they didn't know. I know for a fact that they knew because I emailed them about it. Like,
Yeah,
this is the stuff that's coming out from so many angles.
because they have the
And
backing of the state of California now. The
yeah.
fear has to lessen a lot if you see this and you know that the state is on your side definitively.
Yeah. So, like, one interesting, and I think this is like, so when you hear this and you're like, well, like, how does something this big not come out until sort of now? Ben Brode actually right before this tweeted out something that was very, I, I, I thought was kind of informative, just about kind of how this works in this small scale. And he talked about one of the employees confided in him back when he was at Blizzard, that they were experiencing sexual harassment. And the employee told Ben Brode specifically, like, do not tell, like, I am telling you to not tell HR, even though Ben
Mm-hmm.
Brode, and you can read the tweet. Ben Brode was like, I implored them to go to HR, and he basically like begged them to go to HR. And he also said, like basically, if nothing is done, then this also keeps on happening. And he said that he wanted to breach trust. He didn't breach trust. He held it in. Um, he said he wasn't sure if he did the right thing. I thought that was very, like, he's like, I didn't breach trust. I'm not sure if that was the right thing to this day. But it also
From
kind of,
Blizzard's perspective, that was definitely not the right thing for Ben Brode to do. From the perspective of the victim, the Ben Brode definitely did do the right thing.
yeah,
So, from Ben Brode's perspective, you're in a tough position. That's why they pay you the big bucks.
yeah. So
So,
like,
in case you guys didn't know, HR works for your company. Don't tell them anything if it's something that will put you and your company in a different position. If your interests are aligned with your company, for example, you want to get this thing resolved. Your company wants to get this problem resolved. You're pretty sure you're not going to get fired for this. Like, fine, tell your HR department. But if this is something that is going to put your company on the other side of you and you want to continue a relationship with your company that is not adverse, don't tell HR. That's just a dumb move. And HR will tell you to tell HR, obviously. But this is how HR departments that's how HR departments were born. They weren't born to help people. They were born to help companies avoid lawsuits.
so Blizzard responded, and Blizzard, who is famous for kind of like not responding when they don't have to, responded fairly quickly in many ways. And first, it was President Brack who sent out a message to all employees, basically just saying that he was very saddened by it. He called it, quote, extremely troubling. And he said that uh, he felt, quote, angry, sad, and a host of other emotions. And basically just like, like, I feel bad, I'm listening, and all of this like conciliatory
Mm-hmm.
good language. Once again, remember the complaint. The complaint alleges, at minimum, the people at the very top knew. At minimum, they knew, and the complaint alleges that they most likely extended to the top, which meant that it wasn't just known, it was, for lack of better terms, practiced at all of the stages, unfortunately. So after that, there was an additional response by Fran Townsend, who I think is the CFO. Let's see. But this was
She's new.
she's
She's
new.
like, I don't know, like 2021 new. Not even
She's been
2020
there
new.
she's been there for about half a year.
Yeah.
She was there for half a year, and she wrote this terribly worded response that equates to "This is not the Blizzard I've known," in which the response is "The Blizzard you've known is the last 6 months, and also you are in a position of extreme power, such that if anyone even spoke back to you, you could fire them." So there's kind of a difference here. So that was just extremely tone deaf. Um, Mike Morheim, who left Blizzard in 2018 and who is one of the original founding
Yeah.
fathers of Blizzard. Like, if you guys should know who Mike Morheim is, but if you don't, like, Diablo and Warcraft and World of Warcraft would not be possible without Mike Morheim. Like, it's kind of like that. He wrote a message essentially equating to "I'm sorry, I failed all of you." There were a lot of good messages, or really replies to Morheim's tweet in terms of, "Oh, like, you treated me so well while you were there, blah blah blah."
I mean, I like what
Once
Morheim
again,
did, but he did the only thing he could do besides being silent, which is to
right.
admit guilt.
Once
Like,
again,
he,
quoting the the complaint, "The problems of harassment and discrimination extended to and at minimum were known to those at the top." Morheim was at the top
the very top.
at the very top for a very long time. This
Like,
did not start in
this
2018.
culture, this systemic thing, is not just like under his watch. It is his people. It is his practices, if not personally, then the environment that he, I would venture to say, supported, if not just because you don't have to become president of an organization as big and powerful as Blizzard in the gaming industry without being able to do some things on the cultural side, right? So this is, and to his credit, he's not focusing on it, right? He's not like digging in, being like, "Oh no," but he does admit guilt in his reply. He's like trying to gloss it over a little, but if you read it, like, from a logical perspective and put the ones and ones together, he's just saying, "Look, I'm sorry, all this stuff happened. I should have done better, and I didn't, and that's on me." And there are definitely people who have very good experiences with him. Maybe the vast majority of people have good experiences with him, but that's not like personally. But that's not the problem here. The problem is he and all the other Blizzard execs were creating a workplace environment that was systemically so terrible to women and so systemic that the state of California is suing them.
So if you want to look at kind of like these messages from Brack, the message from Morheim, the best case scenario here, and I mean the absolute best case scenario, is that these two men were so incompetent in their jobs. Like, that is the best case scenario. Yeah, like, you have to believe that these two men, like, especially Morheim, who is brilliant and is like just absolutely brilliant. You would have to believe that
time. Like, that's not believable. You can't, like, if you were in power for like 6 months and then they were like, "Oh, I didn't know any of this was happening," that's pretty unbelievable. But if you were in power for a decade,
basically be incompetent enough to not be there or like not do anything. That's what I mean in terms of incompetence.
This is Blizzard.
That's what you have to believe there. If you believe that.
And this is Blizzard. They're known for it. They advertise. This is one of their core things where they're like very groupy, and people on the top hang out with people on the bottom. It's a super collegial environment. You can't, like, no matter who you are at Blizzard, as long as you're like going to the office every day and working in the office and have some interactions with the team, and you're not like purposefully siloing yourself because you're like a super antisocial, even with fellow dorks, kind of person, Like, you don't even have to have power to know what's going on, like, sort of.
Yep.
And if you have power, and if you've been there for a long time, you definitely knew. That's not even. And if you had power, then, whether you had power to change it or not, it's kind of like on you to, like, make a fuss about it. Um, but, yeah, I mean, this is. I don't know. I thought he wrote the only thing he could have, you know?
Yeah, they wrote anything they could have, and it was enough for some people. And I understand. Look, for a lot of people, Morheim is a person who significantly changed their life, even if they had never met him. Because, like, we have very fond memories of these games. I will also admit, every time I saw Morheim in one of those like BlizzCon presentations or videos, he seemed like a very caring, thoughtful person. And it's just one of those things where I read this and I have to keep reminding myself. It's like the 2-year investigation said that like
Mm-hmm.
this extends to the top, and we're at minimum known to the top. And in order for if you are out there thinking like, well, maybe it wasn't these people that
No, it's
I
all the
like,
people.
it's all the
If the
people.
person
It's
you
all of them.
like has power, it's them. If the person you like
Yep.
is super new or is, one of the people who's like on the ground, like, okay, maybe not. Or maybe they know about it the way you may know about some of this stuff in your workplace, but you have no power to change it and you're still working there and you haven't quit yet. And in the gaming industry, I would imagine if you go to most places, especially the larger shops, you're just going to go to another place where this stuff is happening to some level. The issue is not that, like, the surprise is not really that this is happening at Blizzard or that it's happening anywhere. You can insert name a big, storied video game development company, and this is going to be happening. But it's how pervasive it is, how large
Yeah.
it is, that it caught the attention of the state of freaking. I have to keep saying the state of California because that is how ridiculous of a level this has risen to, and how certain and how widespread. Like the state of California, like think about how many video game companies are based in the state of California. Could have gone after any of them. It's Blizzard.
Yeah. And it's because if you read the complaint or you just read the summaries that are out there, it's because of everything that they found. It's because of all the interviews that they did, and as you can see from the outpour on Twitter and TikTok that came out after the official complaint came out, there was no shortage of stories. There
Mm-hmm.
was no shortage of people. And if you think Hearthstone, so Cora tweeted out immediately afterwards that she personally has not experienced or seen these things, which is very good. We all love Cora. I think she does a fantastic job, and I'm happy that she didn't experience this. Unfortunately, another previous member of the Hearthstone team came out on Twitter and said, "Yeah, I saw all of these things and I experienced all of these things." Um, and it just goes to show that it's not a situation where literally every single person is experiencing
Well,
it
Cora's
and
also
to the
pretty
same
new.
degree.
She's been a member of
Yeah,
Blizzard, what, for 2 years? 1 year?
yeah, for 2 years.
2 years. So this is not like I said, this is a pervasive cultural,
Yep.
historical, like one of the key things with one of with Blizzard's official position afterwards is from Fran is that this is not the Blizzard that I know. Like this is not the Blizzard of today, right? Like we'll cooperate, but or like they're alleging things that are ridiculous, and this will this is not a reflection of who we are today. And it's like if your best defense to this is that things are better now, it's a pretty good admission of guilt right there.
Yeah. So look, um, these lawsuits are going to take a bit of time. I have no idea how long it'll take for this to run its course. In because as with a lot of lawsuits, there are multiple steps, multiple hoops that people have to jump through. It could extend for a longer period of time due to certain circumstances. I have no idea. Uh, but at this point, there's enough for everyone out there to see that Blizzard failed as a company. Like they failed to such a high degree. And once again, and this is important, it's not like Blizzard bad, other game companies good. Like we talked about this, for example, with Sun when she was on
I
here
mean, to be
as
fair,
well.
probably Blizzard one of the worst, at least in California, or else this
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened.
But it's not like, oh, these other companies, there's no sexism there. It's just this utopia of good game design. No, I mean we don't know, right? That's the thing. We don't know, but to assume that Blizzard bad, oh, I will go play these other games from other devs because they're the good ones. No. Like
Uh,
if what you should take away from this is yes, Blizzard is bad. We really seriously need to evaluate kind of uh how women are treated in gaming generally. And also, it, it was only a few years ago when you just couldn't say anything bad about Blizzard. I remember that. And we were kind of trashing on Blizzard, not for this reason, but we were just like, you guys are stubborn, not listening to anything. This
well,
was just
yeah,
about
I mean,
arena
way
stuff, right?
before it's the culture, right? Blizzard acted like
Right.
they're gods. They acted like they're gods
Yeah.
throughout. It's not like a localized thing where we're gods in one. And they just were like, hey, we're the game devs. We made this excellent game that is one of the best games out on the market right now. We are the geniuses and the team. There's a big team mentality there. Um, a lot of things that people think and that are could be positive aspects of a corporate culture that can create things like excellent games like that Blizzard has made. Not unfortunately, but it's really part of their design and their protection in this Blizzard system that will help you mask these kinds of things, and not even mask in that like people don't know, people knew, but just make sure that no one's held accountable and that the most egregious cases where people are held accountable get swept under the rug. Because that's how you make a good team. That's how you let the creativity flow. That's Blizzard's. Like, this is what we mean by systemic, right? This is not like something that just happens to happen at Blizzard. This is this is a feature of the Blizzard culture.
Yeah. And if you remember, a few months back, and then beyond a few months back, like a year before that, and then a year before that, how there have been numerous outcries in the female kind of Hearthstone community, right? I'm just gonna take a focus on the one few months back, and we talked to like Sun Glitters about it. I also talked with Slissa a good amount, and we had both of them on. So you can rewind to that podcast if you want, but just remember that the outcry from a few months ago was due to a tournament, and then of course this big money tournament once again had two women invited out of 20, and it was always like that. Like 20 people were invited, at maximum two women were invited, and sometimes it was just one woman. And then all these female content creators in the Hearthstone community came out, like pooled their kind of experiences together and said, "Look, um, we have experienced kind of systemic and consistent sort
Mm-hmm.
of like just for lack of terms discrimination by Blizzard, and they try to add nuance to it. They're like, okay, and there's also a lot of things that they can't exactly say because it goes down behind the scenes. But what it ended up being is like, okay, why aren't we featured? Because some of us are much bigger than the men that are invited. If you want to talk about skill, okay, we have these women who reach
Mm-hmm.
like rank 1 legend, right? Like Aveline. If you're talking about audience, you have a lot of female streamers who are bigger than these very small male streamers that you invited. If you're talking about what YouTube, some of them have bigger YouTubes. Like they just didn't understand why um
It's
like
because they're
they could
not
only
being
get two
taken
slots max.
seriously. It's because they're
Right.
women and women get taken less seriously in gaming, and Blizzard is a big part of that.
And that's the thing. That's what they basically said. They're just like, look, at this point, it can just be that women aren't being taken seriously by Blizzard. And we had a big discussion at that point. There was such a significant portion of the community, though, that was just in disbelief. That was just like, this is impossible. It's like, look, Blizzard picks how they want to pick.
Mm.
They don't even see men and women. It's like, look, they're picking. It's like they.
Oh,
It's like, oh,
I
you guys are
mean,
just crying, and you
this
guys
is
just
what
want
I
like
don't
freebies and
understand.
opportunities.
Like the people who think that, like, are they really young and like do not have real world experience? Where
I
or
don't know.
are they just like oblivious in the real world too, and they don't see this? Like, because if you walk around the real world and you see this, you got to assume it's a lot worse in gaming, just because of you don't get a reputation for this without some shred of truth, right? And plus all the actual investigations and the stuff. Like, just amplify it up a bit. Like, how is this?
Yeah.
At the very least, this shouldn't be a this is like a silly thing to worry about. It should be let's look into it. I may not be 100% convinced that that's what happened, but that's a good candidate for an explanation of what happened, right?
I can also tell you guys that there's a lot of stuff that happens once the camera is off. Just talks, uh, like by female streamers, to Blizzard, and yeah, like it's some stuff that either heard or been told. I can't share it. That would just be inappropriate. But yeah, it's this kind of stuff that, if told by itself, it's like kind of like, well, I don't know. Like, there's probably other circumstances here. But if pulled together, and there's a reason why you had all the female streamers kind of come together, it's because they talk to each other, they share their stories. And when there's that many cases, just like how California pulled together all these stories here, and then they all come forward, something's going on here. Like, if there's a huge amount of smoke, you can just say, I don't know, man. Like, I don't really see the fire here. Like, I personally don't see the fire. I just can't really believe this. But when there's that much smoke, come on. Like,
Something's
seriously,
happening.
come on. Yeah, something's happening here.
Um, and now we have a deeper glimpse as to what was happening / is happening. Okay, so given that we basically spent the first 40 minutes of this podcast telling you guys and showing you guys, and I don't know, we can point you to a whole bunch of resources too. You could just Google it at this point, or follow some Twitter threads. But Blizzard's a terrible company when it comes to its treatment of women systemically. It is not all that clear how much they've improved since the events that this lawsuit alleges, because it's alleging a culture that's like kind of just pervasive. So if it's changing, you know how cultures work in company, they don't change overnight, especially because it's not like Blizzard fired everybody like in power. So it's still largely here, and it's gonna be here for a bit, if not for a very long time afterwards. What should you and us as gamers, as content creators, do about it? Should we not play Blizzard games? Should we not promote Blizzard games? Should we just not spend money on Blizzard games, or should we do nothing?
So this is the bottom line, right? Like, a lot of people just talk about this stuff, and then it just loops around to this, like, what should be done here? And so many people, once again, everyone has an opinion these days. So many people are calling out current employees at Blizzard, content creators, streamers who are still streaming
Mm-hmm.
Hearthstone or WoW or whatever, right? I'm basically saying, like, look, if you keep on streaming knowing this, you are supporting Blizzard, you are guilty, culpable, whatever word they want to use, and you should boycott Blizzard for this. And to those people I say, you are, you know what, you are absolutely right, and I applaud you for never buying anything from Amazon due to the horrendous workplace policies that they have, never purchasing anything from China because they torture
Oh.
Uyghurs, never eating meat because they have a catastrophic effect on our environment, and it's
How
also
about
cruel to
America?
animals.
Didn't we have all this stuff with how horrible we're treating our black people and our women?
Oh yeah, no, but China bad, China bad. Okay.
Okay.
Also, make sure you never watch any movies from any of the
Oh.
actors, producers, or studios that have
Mm-hmm.
had anything
Which,
anything
which
controversial.
is
I,
like 95%
I
of
think that
movies
covers
made.
literally every single studio. Yeah. So here's the point that I'm trying to make at the end of the day. You can criticize something. You can basically say this is wrong. This company is wrong, while not completely detaching yourself, assuming a moral high ground, and pointing your finger at people who still use the product or play the game or do whatever associated with that company. If you state that, like, if that is your kind of like view, it's so polarized, it's so black and white, how are you living? That's my question. Like, if you're doing that, living in your commune,
Yeah, like you
and
can't.
just planting your own
Basically,
food,
whatever you're doing, like if
okay,
this is
that's good.
influencing your decision and it is, you think that it is beyond emotional and that it is actually a logical choice or an ethical choice, there is no way you're consistent with it. And
No,
you're just letting other people off the hook because it's not the most immediate scandal that broke.
like, yeah,
And that's
seriously,
not ethical. That's, that's, you're not even doing the best that you can because you know all these other scandals that have broken before or that, like, you know what's happening. Like, Merps just listed a bunch of the big ones, but it's going to cover all the small, almost all the small ones too. So if you're living that kind of life, more power to you. We should all be more like you. But I'm not living that kind of life. I have no plans to live that kind of life. And I think it's possible to say Blizzard bad in this way, Blizzard please change, while still, frankly, giving Blizzard money. And beyond that, supporting products that Blizzard makes. I'm
yeah.
not saying that you can totally divorce the product from its creators. I'm not saying this isn't, the softer version of blood diamonds that we're trafficking in right now. But I'm saying I don't really have as much problems with blood diamonds as most people, I think.
Here's the thing at the end of the day, like a couple of things that you need to take into consideration. Um, Basically, number one, you harming quote unquote Blizzard by leaving. Uh, Not everyone at Blizzard is bad. Number one, that's the thing, right? So, for example, we are talking about Cora, right, who stated that she has been treated very well there since she has been there. She hasn't seen this kind of thing, according to her tweet. Um, you're hurting the bad people as well as the good people at the same time. And yeah, it's great to hurt the bad people. If you want to take your moral high ground in that way, great. But yeah, that's just not how the world works as well.
Yep. Um, it's unfortunate, but it is just the case that we can't divorce ourselves from all of these things. Like the big one that I always come back to, and it's one of my pet interests, and I've taken much more classes than I should on this topic. Written theses on it in my grad school days and my college days as well. Eating meat is wrong. It's super wrong. It's
I mean, it's just
extremely,
super wrong.
extremely
Yeah,
wrong.
it's extremely wrong.
Like, just if you don't know that much about it, besides that, like, oh, you're gonna kill an animal, that's probably bad, or like, oh, you're gonna torture the animals a bit before you kill the animal, that's probably bad. If you want to research into it, it's a depressing hellhole. And you don't need meat to live healthily. You really don't. You might have
Yeah,
like 100 years ago. You definitely don't today. And you don't even have to be that rich. You have to just be like, no, you know what? You could even be like welfare level poor and get away with not eating meat and being healthy. That's how
you
cheap it
won't
is.
eat tasty food at
Yes,
all,
sure.
but yes, you can get away with it.
You can get away
You
with it
can
now.
get away with it. Yeah.
So all of us for the last 10 years or so, I would say, is when the prices got to the point where things were okay. For the last 10 years or so, we've just all been doing, like, the meat eaters among us, I mean, like, super horrific, unjustifiable, like, ethical
Yeah.
violations, all of us. And I have not just no plans to give up meat, but, like, even for, like, unless the thing's absolutely identical and I can't taste the difference, and I can taste the difference, even though it's very small, on the fake meats in the market today. Even though they've gotten so much better, and I do eat it sometimes, but I'm still going to eat real meat, and there's no way for me to justify it. So from that position forward, it's just, and I do that every day. Like every single day, I make a informed decision to eat more meat, and it just makes me a horrible person as far as being a consumer goes. And so I just shove all that aside and say I consume things that are terrible. That's just the kind of person I am, and that's just the kind of person 95% of the population is, at least the ones that live in the U.S.
Yep.
And you're just going to have to make peace with that. So, like we keep saying, if you can get rid of everything, Amazon, made in China, made in U.S., made in blah, 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 you just divorce yourself from the corporate things that get produced. More power to you. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
not
the
just
thing.
that I can't do it, like here and there, like in the boat. I can't do it. On a daily basis. I can't do it.
There's a real problem with like the you have to be pure in order to criticize anything. Because that's it, yeah, it's just not possible. It just isn't. So, and also when you do something like this, um what are you really trying to do here? Like you're kind of trying to just slash and burn it down and kind of like forget about it. It's like, okay, that's taken care of, right? Yep, we've destroyed this evil entity. It's done
Let's move
with.
on to Riot, the super ethical, great game developer that
Let's
we
move
all
on to
know and love.
Ubisoft, right? Yeah, let's go to
Ubisoft.
let's go to Ubisoft, like these bastions of fairness and equality. And let's give them our money. Or actually, you know what? Let's give it to some indie developer that we've heard no controversies about, and there's no way that they're bad, right? We haven't heard anything
Hmm.
about them. We love indie developers. You either don't know, or you no, but to a lesser degree, to a degree that is acceptable. I don't know. It just it's a lot of ways to just say, I have seen some extraordinarily bad takes on this. And of course, with the internet being the way it is, people who are gonna quit Hearthstone anyways are now like, I am absolutely quitting, and maybe they are, right? But it doesn't require
Hmm.
proof or anything, and maybe they are, right? Like they don't have to stream, they don't have to prove anything, and maybe they're quitting, and it's like, I'm quitting. This is the last straw for me. And if anyone out there has a shred of dignity,
Yeah.
they would quit as well, because how dare you give money to this organization? Um, cool. Have fun on your commune. Like you're living on the commune, right? Also, like, how are you communicating? Are you just like dictating this onto like a piece of paper with your
Well, they
quill?
can't be listening to us, or at least not watching right now, because that would be using
Right.
Amazon,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
which
of
owns
course you
Twitch.
you shouldn't be using Amazon. So,
And we're using FeedBurner for our podcast, so that's Google.
so here's where we are at. Here's where I am at. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. Right now, I don't feel good playing Blizzard games. I just don't. Like, uncomfortable. It's not like a protest kind of thing. It's just like, I read this, and especially I just read the complaint earlier today, and it like definitely shook me a little bit. The complaint is so powerful, and it like the stories and everything that it alleges, it just like keeps on hitting you. It just like punches you in the face over and over and over again. Um, I don't feel great playing it right now. Am I going to probably spam Diablo 2? Yeah, I will. I'm sure I will. I love that game. It's like it's such a big part of me. Um has my opinion and my unbridled joy of Diablo 2 changed? Yeah, that has too. Like it definitely has.
Hmm.
It's
Because
just
you
like,
know that it was
yeah.
created by a team and an organization that was probably doing terrible things at the time that they were, creating this. And so, yeah, everything's tainted. Like when you have a blood diamond, it's not the same as having a clean diamond. That
That's the
doesn't
thing.
mean if you hand me a blood diamond, I'd go, oh no, thank you. I'll take it, but it's not the same.
It is not the same. So look, um, we know that look, this isn't everyone at Blizzard. We still love the product that they make. Are we going to do like the card review? Yeah, we're going to do
Yeah,
the card review.
nothing
Um,
has changed on what we do in the near future, but given that it is affecting our enjoyment of the game, on top of other things that are more in game that may be affecting our enjoyment of the game. Things may or may not shift one way or the other. But I don't think that this is like a big influence on what we do. And there's people like Trump and some other card revealers who get cards and have great relationships. Ali,
yeah,
are there more have followed, right? More have followed.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so many people have followed
Mhm.
that. They flat out refuse to reveal the card that Blizzard. And these are people with excellent relations with Blizzard normally. They flat out refuse to reveal their card reveals, that's definitely more power to them. And other people have not. Other people have chosen to continue doing their card reviews. And I mean, we don't judge either position. Some streamers need it for their food. Some people, like the bigger ones, especially like Ali, like Trump, don't. They're not at risk of that. And we are not at risk of anything because Blizzard don't talk to us anyway. Because we don't do this professionally. Like we are doing this with our own money. Well, with your money. Thank you, Patreons. Thank you, Twitch subs. We are doing this with your money, but with our time and effort. We're getting paid, by the way, on an annual basis, on a per hour basis. We get paid less than the minimum wage. That's the $7.50 federal minimum wage that we're getting paid less than, not the $15 per hour minimum wage some of you enjoy in some of the areas you live in. But like we're free from this. We can just leave whenever, and we choose not to because like this is not the terribleness of Blizzard the company as it comes to consuming the Blizzard game is not like a one-to-one relationship. And that's not how we feel about it. And I am still excited about United and Stormwind and the upcoming cards, even though I know less about it. There will be a card dump next week. We will review the card dump as normal. We will have our Sunday card preview stream where we talk about the cards. There's a lot of interesting cards coming, and most of the cards, if not all of them, have gone through most of the work by the junior members of the development team because they're the people who are on the ground and they are not the people in power. I'm sure there are some people who are part of the culture in question, but others have not been, and others are actively trying to create change. See Cora. Um, so this is not this is Blizzard, right? Like at the end of the day, Blizzard still makes great products, and I imagine without the sexism, Blizzard may make even better products. And you know what? Maybe you have to be sexist to make a good game. And Blizzard, because they have to change after this, right? The state sues you. You're not going to keep up these practices. Honestly, they were probably in the middle of like a slow change anyway, because that's just kind of where the world is moving to, especially within the video game industry, which has gotten a lot of culture shock in the last few years. As in, what? Wait, why? What do you mean we can't do? What do you mean this is bad? But now that process is most likely going to be sped up for what that's worth, and hopefully we'll see even better games going forward. But regardless, and it may be like there's a small part of me that thinks maybe Blizzard's whole "I am God" as a game developer culture which extends into God, not goddess, and its various treatments of women, not to mention just kind of anybody who has a different opinion. Um, Maybe that is a great way to make really good games, and that they'll fail to create a new culture that is cohesive and can create the quality of games that they've been producing in the past. That doesn't mean you can't make a new culture that's not sexist to create good games. Obviously, other developers have done that, but maybe Blizzard can't pull it off. That's entirely possible. It's much harder to transition out of pervasive sexism than it is to build something from scratch, right? But until then, these franchises are still franchises I like. If they make another StarCraft game, I'm probably going to buy it. If they make another Diablo game, as they will, I'm definitely going to buy it. And for those of you out there who are like, well, I'm not going to give Blizzard any money, but I will still play their game. You're still supporting Blizzard. You're providing a player that other people who do pay for this game can play against. You are adding a user count. In the beginning, for games, user counts are as important, if not more important, than actual profits. So there's no way to like keep your hands clean of this. But I
The
am.
problem, yeah,
Hmm.
so essentially, look, the important thing is remember this incident. Let's learn the lessons that we can. Let's identify the fact that there is within Blizzard and within the industry, and if you disagree on the industry, I don't know what to tell you. There's rampant sexism. There is still a lot of sexual harassment. The gaming industry is still a wild west in
Mm-hmm.
terms of protections. Uh, we can talk about a lot of protections, but like labor protections, which ties in here. Protections for minorities and women, which tie into here as well. But one of the problems is that gaming, and I'm not saying that was the reason here, but one of the problems with gaming is that a lot of money flowed in and a lot of success flowed in very, very quickly. And that just is one of those factors that adds to it's like if you had a bad culture before and suddenly everyone starts winning and getting a lot of money, that's not a good thing. Like that's not a
Mm-hmm.
good thing if you had a bad culture and you start like
Because it
winning
shows
on
you
top
that
of
having a
that.
bad culture can win, and more than that, once you start winning, you kind of don't want to change how you won. So even if like sexism has nothing to do with making a good game, you kind of look at it and you're like, well, we did it that way and it worked out. Why are we going to change things and risk that? So that's how video games like kind of developed in the
Yeah.
more recent
So
history.
w-
Um,
once again, the takeaways should be, um, if you were kind of like, think about it this way. A few months ago, when all the women spoke out, what was your reaction to it, right? What was your reaction to it? Did you believe them? Did you think that it was something that was true? Or did you think that all of these women just wanted some freebies that, like we didn't need this representation that they talked about? Perhaps Blizzard, uh, there's no way that Blizzard could actually be systemically discriminating against them. Because when we're talking about this, it's like, look, you're not going to get an inside look at Blizzard. So, what is your kind of role in this? It's the next time that something like this comes up. And I don't mean for Blizzard, right? Because now no one's going to trust Blizzard when it comes to this stuff, and probably rightly so. But next time something like this comes up, if your response before was, nah, this just isn't really believable from these women. Or I'm like, well, yes, but dot dot dot. I mean, this is just one of those things that's like, if it causes you to reevaluate your previous response, that's what we should take away from it. Because those are the real lessons going forward. And if you choose instead to take this as an opportunity to assert your moral high ground, uh, well, you fucked up. That's it. It's like as a person in society, you fucked up. Like if you like, there's so many opportunities, so many learning opportunities from this for everyone here, and it's such a sobering situation. And if your choice, because it's yours to choose now. If your choice after learning all of this, after hearing all of this, is to just state a moral high ground over other people, I didn't do this. Other people who choose to support Blizzard are, scum, and all of that stuff. You fucked up. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or about it. You had a learning opportunity and you failed.
All right. Well, anything you want to say to cap off this issue? I think we covered this pretty thoroughly.
That's it. Look, this is a really tough week, and it was a really really tough week, and just a real wound opening week for a lot of people. And uh, my Twitter, and I'm pretty active on Twitter. I don't post a lot, but I read a lot of Twitter. It's just all Blizzard, Hearthstone people, like internet. Like it's just 90% of it was about this topic. So I saw a lot of the stories, and I saw a lot of the unfortunate circumstances that led to, from these stories, the circumstances that led to it, the circumstances that made it such that it was so hard for these stories to come out. And for how much we think things are fine in the industry, because once again, we look back a few months ago, and you had people like Sunglitters and Patra, Nicolina, Slissa, etc., like talk about their experiences within the industry and their relationships with game devs, relationship with gaming companies, relationship with Twitch chat, and all of this. So and then they're saying, like, look, the odds are stacked against us here. We receive, we work hard, and a lot of times we work even harder, and then even after we get the results in terms of like the views or whatever, we're still being discriminated against. And a big part of the Hearthstone, because look, I read all of the Twitter responses and all of the Reddit, the Hearthstone subreddit replies. The Hearthstone subreddit is just so bad. I don't know why. Maybe it's like the moderation or something. I have no idea why.
It's not worse than other subreddits. It's a Reddit.
I would say it's a little bit worse, but I have my theories for that. Anyways, so yeah, like what if you look back on those situations, it's just like a validation, unfortunately, for that sort of outcry. And I hope that no one just sees this as like, okay, so Blizzard is bad, or like within the gaming company it is bad. I hope you just see this and it shows you how bad it is. If not, we don't even need to generalize it for women. We can just say women in gaming. And if you still don't see that after all of these examples, maybe it's just hopeless for you. But if you were on the fence at all, I think this just has to be eye-opening. Like, it just has to be. Like, Blizzard, this company that has created
California,
state of California,
99.9% conviction rate, 2-year investigation,
so
systemic from the top. All those in power at least have knowledge. That's the allegation.
So you'd have to say, like, look, Blizzard is an outlier, just like Ubisoft, right?
If anything,
like
people were like, Blizzard's an outlier. They're better. That's what people were like.
Yeah.
I think very few people were like, Blizzard's an outlier. They're so much worse on women.
Patra is exaggerating. Slissa is exaggerating. Sun is lying. Nicolina is exaggerating. Aveline, she has no idea what she's talking about. Also, they all conspire together to just get some freebies. Yeah. Like, to what extent do you have to go to just be like, no. We don't have a problem. Like, we don't have a problem in gaming. Like, there is equal opportunity. If the women actually deserved it, they would get it. At what point, if you actually believe that, are you like, okay, maybe that's not the case? I hope that if you believed it before, this incident pushes you towards at least a period of reflection to be like, damn, women in gaming, not great. This is like systemic within one of the biggest gaming companies and one of the most esteemed gaming
Yeah, and
companies
it's not
you've ever
like when
had.
this first broke, I saw so many posts. I was on Reddit when this broke. I saw so many people were like, hey, don't loop Blizzard into this. This has to be the Call of Duty people who are part of Activision Blizzard. And I'm sitting there like, you sure about that? And then the people started reading the complaint more people started publishing things with more details. And it's like, yeah, no, it's Blizzard.
This is Blizzard. This is Mike Morheim.
Mm-hmm.
These are your heroes. That's it. Like this happened for a long time. I'm sure there were some good people who tried to help from within, but look at the complaint. It was systemic. People at minimum at the very top knew. So that's it. Like
Yeah, and
there's no
just to say the systemicness of it, I also saw enough people who are ex Blizzard employees and current Blizzard employees calling out. Sometimes not by name, I guess maybe for legal reasons, but just calling out generally, like managing level and executive level Blizzard and ex Blizzard people who were harassers or alleged harassers, and they are now tweeting things like, "I can't believe this has happened." Like, you have all my support. Um, so don't trust anyone. If they had power and they worked for Blizzard from like more than they worked for Blizzard and had power for like I would say like a year or two before today, and they've been there for at least a year before that. They're enablers at the absolute best case scenario.
yeah. So
E-
once again, I'm seeing comments in chat was like, this person was a good person, that person was a good person. Here's all I'm gonna say: we don't know. We literally don't know. What we know is the culture was so bad.
No, I
You
think
can
we
read
do
about it in the
know. I
complaint.
think we do know that they're enablers. I think that's exactly what the state of California is alleging, and they have the evidence for it. And their normal win rate is like 99.9%. So I don't think it's fair to say we don't know. I think it's only fair to say we don't 100% know, but we 99 point something percent know. Not that they were like out there harassing women, but that they knew this was happening, and they didn't do anything about it.
Yep. So that's it. Look, there's no happy ending here, no matter what. Like, if they win, these women get some money in the form of like damages and everything. Uh, but it's really shitty. Like,
You know who I think wins out of this?
hmm?
I think there's only one. Well, okay, outside of state of California winning some money, which, to be fair, they desperately need. But the big winner here is actually Blizzard. If you're wondering why the stock prices for Blizzard barely moved when this announcement happened, it's because this is not bad for not just the long term outlook of Blizzard, but it's not bad for the short term outlook of Blizzard. This is the kind of undeniable wake up call that a company in 2021 needs. And especially in a gaming company where the culture needs to change, especially in a company where they're producing all of these very like women friendly, like they're not out there making Call of Duty as their primary product exactly, right? This is like Blizzard. This is the people who make Overwatch, right? Where they specifically care about people who have, who are more casual players and or people who are less traditional, like shootery kind of gaming. They're specifically making games to bring these people in, the people who were previously underserved by the gaming developers. This is excellent for Blizzard because presumably after this, they are going to change. That is the bet. Like, if I'm investing in Blizzard or if I'm deciding whether to sell my Blizzard stock, I have no Blizzard stock, by the way. Um,
Neither of us
that
do. Full
yeah,
disclosure,
neither of
we
us,
do not have
we do
Blizzard
not have
stock.
Blizzard stock. But if that's what I was deciding, I'm going to look at this and see that one, this is not actually going to lose Blizzard a lot of money. It's just a bad publicity. But the bad publicity will pass away. Remember Hong Kong? I remember it as a meme. That's all I remember Hong Kong. Um, this is going to pass away because Blizzard has such a, I don't know if the word good is as proper of a description now as it used to be, but such an established product that the failure would be in the product itself and not the company for people to actually en masse stop giving the company money in a way that would affect the bottom line and for the long period. And meanwhile, this is the exact wake up call. Plus, they want to fire more people. Blizzard's always been firing people for the last few years, and they want to have any excuse whatsoever to fire more people, especially the old guard that are like middle management and questionable uh, practices that are actually carrying into 2021. So I think from a corporate perspective, not bad for Blizzard. Not even for like 10 years from now, but for 2-3 years from now, maybe even for 1 year from now, this event is a net neutral to net positive for Blizzard. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to look at the whole thing, sadly, the winners are not the women. I mean, they're the future women who work at Blizzard, right? Because I hope it would be really terrible if this didn't happen. But I hope if you're a woman currently working at Blizzard or you're thinking of working for Blizzard, you're going to have a much better time than you were going to have if you did this 2 years ago. Like, I have to think that that would be a result of this lawsuit. And that was probably something that was already in place. Like, already moving in that direction, but probably a lot slower than how it's going to move in that direction following this lawsuit.
This is just how history works. The initial pioneers are always the ones, like literally, right? Like if you were a pioneer and the first to kind of like settle an area, you had a bad time. Like look
Yep.
at the people who like discovered new lands and kind of like settled those lands. Uh, None of them had a good time and an easy life. And just like with this, unfortunately, it's out of the suffering of others. Like, and history is just built on this. It's out of the suffering of others, and then the recognition of that suffering that there can be better change. But we're just hoping for better change. That's it right now.
All right. That's it for this Lightforge, and we will be back next week with our United in Stormwind card evaluation, card preview, whatever you want to call it now. Where we're going with our new system that we used in the last expansion as well for rating cards. We'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be some exciting watch post kind of cards that we can all rail against. Maybe there won't be. Maybe there'll be the next Scorpid. But at least right now, some of the class cards look. Oof, they're going to be used. They're going to be some good bombs in Arena with this expansion. All right. Until next week, this is Odd Booked Up.
It's Merp, see you guys.